Hello to anyone watching this. Out of all of the Mario Sports series, obviously baseball is the only one to not get an entry on the Switch yet, but thankfully the rumour mill has been constantly suggesting that we'll get one, basically since Mario Strikers Battle League came out, so it's fingers crossed for the future really, and especially as a European who's never got the chance to play a Mario baseball game, it would be nice to finally get a go. But of course the Mario baseball game's biggest claim to fame are their character rosters, which are known for being some of the absolute best out of any Mario game due to their selection of relevant characters as well as costumes for characters. So today I just wanted to conceptualise the grandest possible roster I can think of for a Switch Mario baseball game, which obviously is probably going to end up quite a fruitless endeavour, as we'll probably be lucky to get the same amount of characters as the Wii baseball game, given the amount of characters each of the other Switch Mario Sports games have given us. But it'll still just be fun to think about, you know? So the number that I'm going to go for is a nice round 101, as obviously the Mii should be coming back as well, and they don't really fit into any of the other teams, so they can just be clipped to the side of everyone else. But for the main 100 characters, I'm just going to split them into 10 teams of 10. And while Mario Sluggers did have about a dozen characters per team, that did include all of the different colours and costumes. And I'm not going to count them towards the main total here, you know. There'll still be plenty of colours and costumes, but that'll be separate to the main character count this time. In terms of the captains for each of these teams, I'm going to split up Luigi from Mario and Bowser Jr. from Bowser, so that both of them can have their own unique teams. And chucking in Rosalina and Pauline as well, I think this selection of 10 are the perfect main captains to have. So for each team I'm going to go through its members and of course secondary captain, as well as their home field, as obviously that'll tie together the sort of theme of each of these teams. And I am going to keep all of the Mario Sluggers teams together as much as possible, but obviously some characters are going to be moved around that are more appropriate to be on other teams now. And of course I'll be talking about the assorted costumes that each member of the team could have, as well as characters that sadly can't make the cut, because despite this roster having 100 characters, there are still plenty of characters that aren't able to make it, sadly. So let's get on with it. First up is Team Mario, which obviously appears slightly eclectic, as he's holding on to his Mario Sunshine pals, as well as dragging in his Mario Wonder pals. But I think the way it can work is by having his field be the Petal Isles from Mario Wonder, as that's obviously a very tropical area, which is appropriate for the Gnocchis and Piantas. And obviously those two will keep their colours from Sluggers, as well as the Poplins having their various colours seen across Mario Wonder. I think this team sort of represents the best of both worlds in terms of new characters for the game, as well as characters from the previous games. You know, it's a fun mix. Next up is Team Luigi, who, as you can tell, has a very lovely Luigi's Mansion theme team, which I think is just very appropriate for him. You know, it was sort of weird that Luigi's Mansion was randomly thrown in as a field in Sluggers, so it would be nice for it to finally have a proper reason to be here. Plus it's just nice to give these characters a chance to shine. Like, despite everything, this is still going to be EGAD's first proper playable appearance, you know? And the ghosts from the series never really get any time in the spotlight, so I thought I'd chuck in the three most distinct types of them, you know, so they still feel different. And obviously Boo can get his different colours from across the series, and maybe King Boo could have more of a Luigi's Mansion look, or maybe it'll just be his Luigi's Mansion look, all things considered. But either way, I think this is the most well-rounded team possible for Luigi's Mansion reps. Next is Team Peach, who really needs the least tweaking out of any team, because I think the sort of Peach's Garden theme just makes the most sense for her in general, although it would be nice if the field was more based around the Mario Kart course with all of its hedge maze elements and stuff like that. Obviously Piranha Plant very much fits the garden theme, but I think something about Lakitu just makes sense to be here as well, you know? And obviously Toad will get all of his colours, and you could have red and green shell Lakitu, and maybe fire Piranha Plant as well, you know? Plenty of opportunities for costumes in that regard. Next is Team Yoshi, which obviously benefits the most from costumes not properly counting as characters anymore, as before it was pretty much just Yoshi, Birdo, Wiggler, Shy Guy and colours, so now it can thankfully be more expanded. I moved Koopa Troopa and Paratrooper out of Team Wario for reasons that will become very clear in a bit, and I placed them here because, especially back during the GameCube era, you know, Koopa Troopa and Yoshi had a oddly special bond together, so it'll be nice to rekindle that. And obviously the baseball games are the only place where it's morally acceptable to include loads of baby characters, so why not Baby Yoshi as well? And that finally leaves room for a few actual Yoshi's Island representatives. And I think these three just make the most sense, you know, especially Poochie is starting to actually gain a couple playable appearances, so it'd be nice to see him here as well. And obviously Yoshi and Shy Guy can keep their colours, but also Birdo, Baby Yoshi, and maybe even Poochie and Toadie could get multiple colours as well, so definitely the most filling team in terms of costumes. Team Donkey Kong was pretty much perfect before, so all I can really do is chuck in Cranky Kong and Lord Frederick as a representation of more modern Donkey Kong villains, and it's already there, you know, just keep the critter colours and that's it, no notes. Proper WarioWare representation is massively overdue in the Mario series, and I think either way a baseball game would be the perfect place to start representing them, as obviously since there's so many characters here and there are so many characters in WarioWare at this point, this is a good place to just chuck plenty of them in, you know. Alongside Baby Wario, who, like I said, it is acceptable here to have plenty of babies. The selections from WarioWare I went for, I sort of based it on Frank and Pioro being cute mascots for the series, and the other 5 characters being sort of the best representations of the different types of characters you can get in WarioWare. Although pretty much the only option for costumes is just multicoloured Franks, but that'd still be nice to have. You know, the other characters are already perfect enough as they are. And as for a WarioWare themed field, I think the best option would maybe be sort of cyberspace from Get It Together, you know? I think that'd have a very visually unique look compared to all of the other fields in the game. Next is Team Bowser Jr., which, in an extremely affectionate way, I'd just make this the dumping ground for all of the other enemies that are going to appear in this game, you know? I mean, at least it'll be nice to have plenty of room for characters here, as obviously in Sluggers pretty much all you got for the Bowser team was multicoloured Kamex, Hammer Bros and Dry Bones, so it'll be nice to have much more diversity in this selection of characters. And alongside those costumes coming back, you can obviously also have Stone and Fire Spike, as well as Bone Goomba and Para Goomba, and I think this would be the absolute best team in the game in my opinion. I have a massive bias for the enemies, but still, you know, this team is just that stacked. As for his field, while I do really love the playroom aesthetic of Sluggers, I think it would be nice to go for something a lot more castle themed, you know, maybe more like a fortress with all of the different gimmicks from the new Super Mario series somehow coming into play. I think would just be nice to see. Next is Team Bowser, which, while it might not look the prettiest, I just think in a game like this it's inevitable to have all of the Koopas included, you know? So I think this is the best place for them, you know, this could be Bowser and all of the other bosses just coming together. Like, it would have been nice if we could get bosses from all across the Mario series. I really don't think there's enough to pad out a selection of 10, you know, plus several bosses are scattered about the other teams. I just think a makeup like this just makes the most sense to me. And you know, even if his team isn't the most inspired, I think if his field was based on Bowser's Castle from Mario Wonder, it would definitely feel inspired. On to the completely new teams with Team Rosalina, and I think you can pick pretty much any 9 Mario Galaxy characters and that series will feel well represented. Apart from maybe like baby Rosalina, but like I said, the babies are allowed. Just sort of ignore her if you want to, just tune her out. As for my main Galaxy picks, I think with like Honey Queen and Honeybee and Coach and Penguin, it's the sort of same thing as like having King Boo and Boo, you know? It's nice to have a sort of regular subject alongside a more higher up member of the species, you know? And then for the other 3, you know, Luma and Guillermo have plenty of different colour options, and Whittle has his different head shapes that he could have, you know, I think that'll all be nice to see. As for their field, while you can pick pretty much anywhere from Mario Galaxy, I do think somewhere with a sort of darker atmosphere like Battle Rock Galaxy or even Good Egg Galaxy would give a nice contrast to the other fields in the game, you know, can stand alongside Luigi's Mansion in that regard. Lastly is Team Pauline, and similarly to Team Rosalina, obviously pretty much any 9 Odyssey reps are going to feel justified here. Obviously it'll be nice for Cappy, Tiara and the Broodals to finally get a playable appearance, but alongside them I think Glydon was just a very cute character, and the Chivarian and Elder Chivarian, like I said, have that Boo, King Boo sort of vibe, so I just think those were the right 9 to pick. Like I said though, it's very easy to swap out characters with this team, especially the Broodals I could easily replace with any of the other civilians from the other kings in the game, but like I said, this just felt like the most well-rounded set to me. And while there aren't any obvious costumes to give any of these characters, there is a very obvious field to have here. Just very simple, New Donk City, let the ball bounce off skyscrapers, etc, etc, you know. Very standard stuff at this point of the Switch era. But while it's nice to talk about all of these teams, there is obviously an elephant in the room known as post-launch support. And it's like, I know this is all just a concept, but I just really wouldn't want a 100 character roster taken away from me and then given back bit by bit over the course of 6 months. You know what I mean? I like to think that by this point, Nintendo sort of understands how unpopular this form of DLC is, but you know, we can only hope that Chivarian Elder is available at launch at this point. So while I could go into various DLC teams would be nice to see, I think it'd be safer not to, because the more wishful I am, the less I seem to get. But yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions or concerns, do let me know. If you're wondering why I didn't mention everybody having a baseball outfit, it's because while it was cute for like a couple games for everyone to have a proper sports attire, I think it's getting old. You know, I just think it's funnier for everybody to just do these things in their regular clothes, you know? But bye-bye, have a nice day.